The lights inside the United Coalition Council chamber were always too bright. They hummed with a low, electric buzz that drilled into the back of the skull. For Dale, sitting alone in the large, curved booth that represented the Sol system, the lights were the only thing keeping him awake. He adjusted his tie, feeling the scratchy fabric against his neck. It was a nervous habit he had developed over 50 years of serving as the ambassador for a dead world. Around the circular room, hundreds of other booths floated or were anchored to the floor. They were filled with creatures of every shape and size. There were the Kriller, tall beings with skin like polished emeralds and forearms that moved in a graceful, fluid dance. There were the Vault, heavy-set, rock-like creatures who communicated through deep rumbles in their chests. And there were dozens of other species, all members of the grand galactic community. But Dale was the only human. The other ambassadors did not look at him with hate. They looked at him the way a person might look at a museum exhibit. He was a relic. A curiosity. 300 years ago, the human race had simply faded away. Their solar system went quiet. No signals, no ships, no trade. The historians of the coalition argued over exactly what happened. Some said a virus wiped them out. Others said they destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons, because humans were famous for their aggression. But the result was the same. Humanity was gone. All that remained was Dale, and a few thousand others living on distant colonies, too few and too weak to matter. Order, the voice of the council speaker boomed. It was translated instantly into 1,000 languages inside the heads of the attendees. The topic for the day was boring, as usual. Resource management in the outer sectors. Dale listened with half an ear, checking the time on a small screen embedded in his wrist. He wanted to go home. He wanted to sit in his quiet apartment and read old paper books. Then, the atmosphere in the room changed. The large holographic map in the center of the chamber shifted. The image of a rotating star system appeared. It was yellow and worn. It was the Sol system. Earth's home. A Vault ambassador named Zarlos stood up. His rock-like skin crunched as he moved, and his voice sounded like boulders grinding together. Honored Council, Zarlos rumbled. We bring a motion to reclassify the Sol system. The room went silent. Dale looked up, his eyes narrowing. The Sol system has been a protected heritage site for 3 centuries, Zarlos continued, waving a heavy, stone hand. But in that time, no one has visited. The humans are extinct. The system is empty. It is a waste of valuable space. The Vault Mining Consortium requests permission to enter the system, dismantle the remaining planetary structures, and harvest the asteroid belt for raw materials. A murmur went through the room. It was a logical request. The Vault were an industrial people, they needed materials to build their ships and stations. Why let a graveyard sit unused? Dale stood up slowly. His legs felt stiff. He pressed a button on his console, and a small light turned on above his head, signaling his request to speak. The human representative has the floor, the speaker said. All eyes turned to Dale. He felt very small. He cleared his throat. Ambassador Zarlos, Dale said, his voice shaking slightly. The Sol system is not just a resource pit. It is the birthplace of a species that once walked among you. To strip mine it would be to erase the last memory of humanity. Earth is a cemetery. Would you mine a cemetery for stone? A few of the ambassadors nodded slowly. The Kriller, in particular, were sentimental about such things. Zarlos laughed, a sound like a landslide. Cemetery, there are no bodies there, Dale. Just empty cities turning to dust. History is written in books, not in empty rocks. We have scanned the system. There is no activity. No energy signatures. It is dead. You are holding on to ghosts. Dale gripped the edge of his podium. It is protected by the Heritage Act. It cannot be touched as long as a single descendant exists. You exist, Zarlos said, his tone mocking. But you do not represent a civilization. You represent a memory. We are not asking to take your home, Dale. You live here on Arcturus Prime. We are asking to take the junk left behind. I object, Dale said firmly. The Sol system remains off limits. Let us vote, Zarlos demanded. There is no logical reason to keep a whole solar system locked up for a ghost story. The council speaker began the voting process. One by one, the lights on the booths flashed green or red. Dale watched with a sinking heart. The Kriller abstained, respecting the idea of heritage, but the industrial races and the expansionist races all voted with the vault. The logic was cold and hard. If something is not used, it is wasted. The tally appeared on the main screen. The motion passed. Dale sat down heavily. He felt a hollow pain in his chest. They were going to tear apart Mars. They were going to smash the old ships floating in the docks. They were going to grind up the ruins of human civilization to make cheap vault alloys. He couldn't stop them. He was one man against the galaxy. The motion is carried, the speaker announced. The Sol system is open for industrial development in exactly one standard galactic cycle. Vault forces may mobilize immediately. Zarlos looked at Dale and made a gesture of respect, but his eyes were cold. It is for the best, little human. Clinging to the past blinds you to the future. Dale didn't reply. He just stared at the holographic map of Earth. A blue marble floating in the dark. Silent. Dead. Or so everyone thought. Suddenly, a technician sitting near the large holographic projector frowned. He tapped his headset, looking confused. He stood up and whispered something to the speaker. The speaker raised a hand. Silence, please. We are receiving an urgent alert from Deep Space Array 4. The room quieted down. These things happen sometimes. A solar flare, a meteor shower, a glitch in the system. Is it a vault mining ship preparing early? An ambassador asked. No, the technician said, his voice trembling slightly. It is a gravitational anomaly. In the Sol system. Dale looked up. He felt a strange chill run down his spine. Put it on the main screen, the speaker commanded. The hologram of Earth flickered and vanished, replaced by a stream of raw data and star charts. It showed the Sol system. But it didn't look like it usually looked. Usually, the system was dark, except for the dim light of the sun and the faint glimmer of planets. Now, the space around Jupiter was on fire. Not real fire, but energy. Massive, blinding spikes of blue and white light were erupting from the dark void near the gas giant. It looked like the stars themselves were being torn apart. What is that? Zarlos boomed, standing up again. Is it a supernova? Are the stars dying? It is artificial, the technician yelled, typing furiously on his console. Gravity wells are opening. Thousands of them. The room erupted into chaos. Ambassadors shouted, demanding answers. The hologram zoomed in. The energy signatures were so high they were washing out the sensors. Then, the interference cleared. Dale stood up. His mouth opened slightly. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Emerging from the folds of space, like sharks rising from the deep ocean, were shapes. Huge, jagged, dark shapes. They were not the smooth, biological ships of the cruller, or the blocky industrial ships of the vault. They were angular and harsh. They were painted in colors that sucked in the light. And there were so many of them. One ship appeared. Then 10. Then 100. Then thousands. The computer on the screen tried to count them. The numbers scrolled so fast they were a blur. 100. 5,000. 50,000. The energy readings spiked. The gravitational sensors began to scream warnings. The mass appearing in the system was so heavy it was threatening to disrupt the orbit of Jupiter's moons. "This is impossible," the speaker said, his voice losing its robotic calm. "Identify the ships." The symbols on the hulls were blurry at first, but as the first ship fully materialized, the sensors locked onto the transponder signal. It was a code that hadn't been used in 300 years. The technician turned to face the council, his face pale as a sheet. "I have an ID confirmation," he whispered. "Who is it?" Zarlos demanded, his voice shaking. "Is it the pirates, the Void?" "No," the technician said. "The signal is, it is Terran." The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Every eye, every sensory organ, was locked on the hologram. The fleet was still pouring out of the jump gates. Massive dreadnoughts, kilometers long, escorted by swarms of smaller attack craft. The counter on the screen finally stopped. Estimated vessel count, 500,000. Dale stared at the screen. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He recognized the design of the lead ship. It was an old class, but upgraded. It was a ship of war. "They aren't dead," Dale said, his voice barely audible in the silent room. Zarlos looked at the screen, then at Dale. The rock-like ambassador seemed to shrink in his seat. "This is a trick," Zarlos stammered. "Humans are gone. These are ghosts. Simulations." "It is no simulation," the technician shouted. "They are powering up weapons. They are targeting our observation buoys in the Sol sector. They are locking onto the vault mining convoy that was approaching the border." 500,000 ships, Dale whispered again. He felt a strange sensation in his chest. It was fear, yes. But underneath the fear, something else was stirring. A spark of pride, or perhaps a warning bell. Where have they been? Suddenly, a transmission cut through every channel in the council chamber. It bypassed the diplomatic protocols. It bypassed the translation algorithms. It was a raw audio signal, broadcast directly into the room. The sound was harsh, filled with static and the roar of engine noise. "Attention Galaxy. This is the Terran Defense Front. You have abandoned us. You have written our eulogy. You have claimed our worlds as your own." The voice was deep, male, and utterly devoid of fear. "We are not dead. We have been waiting. We have been watching. And now, we have returned." On the screen, the massive fleet moved in perfect unison. 500,000 ships turned as one single entity, their prows pointing outward toward the rest of the galaxy. Toward the coalition. Dale looked around the room. The faces of the powerful ambassadors were twisted in shock and horror. For 300 years, they had ruled the galaxy, thinking the scary monsters were gone. They had thought humanity was just a bedtime story about why you shouldn't play with fire. But the fire was back. And it was burning brighter than ever. Prepare yourselves, the voice said. The war for the future begins now. The hologram showed the main guns of the human fleet lighting up. A soft, red glow that promised destruction. Dale sat back down in his chair. He took a deep breath. The meeting was definitely over. The galaxy thought humanity was gone. But they were wrong. And the price for that mistake was about to be paid. The silence inside the council chamber did not last long. It was broken by the blaring of red alert klaxons. The lights on the floor changed from a calm blue to a flashing, warning crimson. Technicians were shouting into their headsets, scrambling over one another to get to their stations. The calm order of the galactic government had shattered in an instant. On the main holographic screen, the 500,000 ships did not move like the clumsy mining barges or diplomatic cruisers the Council was used to. They moved like a swarm of locusts, or perhaps a pack of wolves hunting in the snow. There was no wasted movement. Ships darted forward, covering each other, creating a wall of steel and energy that blocked out the stars behind them. Ambassador Zarlos stood frozen, his eyes wide. The color had drained from his face, making his gray skin look like ash. "It cannot be," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "It is a trick. It must be a holographic projection. A scare tactic to stop the mining vote." Dale looked at the vault ambassador. He felt a strange sense of calm wash over him, though his hands were shaking slightly where they rested on the desk in front of him. "Zarlos," Dale said, his voice cutting through the noise. "Look at the gravity readings. No hologram can distort gravity that much. That is real mass. Those are real ships." Zarlos shook his head violently, refusing to accept reality. "We must scan them. Send a deep-range probe. I want visual confirmation, not just sensor data." The Speaker of the Council slammed his gavel down, though the sound was lost in the chaos. "Order! Order! The request for a probe is granted. Launch the Observer-class drone immediately." In the Sol system, millions of miles away, a small, robotic device deployed from a hidden station near Pluto. It was a simple machine, designed to take pictures and send them back. It zoomed toward the massive fleet, its lens focusing on the closest vessel. The image appeared on the main screen in the council chamber. The ship was terrifying. It was pitch black, with red glowing lines running along its hull like veins. It was scarred, pitted, and ugly. It looked like it had seen 1,000 battles and survived them all. And painted on the side, in large, white letters that had been faded by the friction of space travel, was a single word: revenge. Gasps echoed through the room. The aliens had never seen a ship like that. It was not beautiful. It was not elegant. It was a weapon, built for only one purpose: to destroy. Suddenly, the feed from the probe turned to static. One moment the ship was there, the next, the screen was filled with white noise. "The probe is gone," a technician announced, his voice trembling. "It was destroyed." "By what?" an ambassador from the aquatic species asked, bubbles of anxiety escaping her breathing apparatus. "It didn't explode," Dale said, staring at the screen. "Look at the data. It was jammed. They blocked our signal. They are telling us that they don't want us looking at them unless they say so." Zarlos finally seemed to snap out of his denial. Anger replaced his fear. The Vault were a proud people. They did not like being challenged, especially not by a species they considered dead. "This is an act of war," Zarlos roared. "They have destroyed Coalition property in a restricted zone. My fleet is stationed on the border of the Sol sector. I will order them to intercept. We will show these ghosts that they cannot threaten the galaxy. Dale stood up. Zarlos, don't. You have no idea what their capabilities are. Wait. Talk to them. There is nothing to talk about. Zarlos shouted. They are primitives with stolen technology. A few ships appearing does not mean they are a match for the Vault Navy. The Vault Admiral did not wait for the Council's permission. He was a soldier, and he saw a threat. He opened a secure channel to the Vault Battle Group, a fleet of 50 modern warships that was patrolling the edge of human space. Admiral Krog, Zarlos spoke into his communicator. Scramble the fleet. Target the intruders. I order you to fire on sight. Destroy the lead ships. On the screen, the tiny green dots representing the Vault ships turned toward the massive black cloud of the human fleet. In the council chamber, the technicians watched the tactical map with bated breath. The human fleet was numbered in the hundreds of thousands. The Vault fleet was just 50 ships. But Vault ships were the best in the galaxy. They had shields that could withstand a supernova. They had cannons that could melt a moon. Vault fleet moving to attack, the technician announced. Locking weapons. Firing in 3, 2, 1. Thin beams of green light shot out from the Vault ships. They were precise, powerful shots meant to disable engines and hulls. They crossed the distance of space and hit the front line of the human formation. Dale watched, expecting to see explosions. He expected to see human ships burning and breaking apart. But the beams hit the black hulls and simply disappeared. The shields are holding. The Vault tactical officer shouted. Refocus fire. Concentrate all energy on the dreadnought. More green beams lashed out, focusing on a massive human ship that sat in the center of the formation. The energy was enough to vaporize a small planet. The lights in the council chamber flickered from the power output. But the human ship did not even slow down. It did not fire back. It just kept coming. Shields are at 100%, the technician reported, sounding confused. It is like we are shooting at a black hole. They are absorbing the energy. Dale knew why. The humans hadn't been sitting idle for 300 years. They had been fighting. They had been adapting. The Vault were fighting the war of the last century. The humans were fighting the war of tomorrow. Then, the human fleet reacted. They didn't fire lasers. They didn't fire plasma. The human ship simply accelerated. The tactical map showed the black dots of the human fleet moving forward. They moved faster than anything should be able to move. They disregarded the laws of inertia. They were just there, and then they were somewhere else, closer. Collision alert. A technician screamed. They are going to ram us. No, Dale whispered. They are going to pass us. The 500,000 ships did not engage the 50 Vault ships. They did not even fire a single shot at them. They simply split their formation, creating a massive gap, like the ocean parting for a ship. They surged forward, passing right through the Vault blockade. As they passed, the sheer size of the human ships became clear. A Vault cruiser, which was usually a kilometer long, looked like a toy next to the human dreadnoughts. The human ships were mountains of metal, dwarfing the alien vessels. The gravitational wake of their passing knocked the Vault ships off course, spinning them like tops. They are not stopping, the speaker said, his voice hollow. They are ignoring the blockade. They are heading into the galaxy. Zarlos stared at the screen in horror. His fleet had been humiliated. They had fired their best weapons and had been ignored. The humans had treated them like mosquitoes buzzing around a tank. "Why won't they fight?" Zarlos yelled. "Do they think they are better than us?" A new transmission came through the speakers. It was the same voice as before, but this time it was colder. It did not come from the lead ship. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We are not here for you," the voice said. "Your weapons are toys. Your ships are fragile. We do not waste our ammunition on things that do not matter." The transmission cut out. On the screen, the human fleet began to spread out. They were not stopping at the border. They were entering coalition space. They were heading toward the core systems, toward the populated worlds. But they weren't attacking planets. They were taking up positions around stars, near nebulas, and in asteroid belts. They were setting up a perimeter. "What are they doing?" a Kriller ambassador asked, her forearms clasped together in fear. Dale looked at the map. The human fleet was positioning itself in a defensive shell. A massive sphere that enclosed thousands of star systems, including Earth. "They aren't invading," Dale said, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. "They are fortifying. They are preparing for something." Suddenly, a technician at the back of the room stood up. He was looking at data coming from the edge of the galaxy, far away from the human fleet. "Commander," the technician said, his voice shaking. "I am reading another anomaly. It's not near Earth. It is on the other side of the sector. Near the void." "Put it on the screen," the speaker ordered. The view changed. They saw a different part of space. The stars there were twinkling peacefully. Then, one by one, the stars began to vanish. It wasn't a cloud blocking them. The stars were literally going out. Something was eating the light. "We have an unidentified contact emerging from the void," the technician said. "Biological signature. Massive scale. It's a living ship." A shape began to form in the darkness. It wasn't metal. It was flesh. It was a terrifying, writhing mass of tentacles and teeth, the size of a small moon. It was purple and sickly, dripping slime that hissed as it touched the vacuum of space. The creature opened a mouth that was large enough to swallow a city, and a scream echoed over the communication channels. A psychic scream that made everyone in the room grab their heads in pain. It was a sound of pure hunger. "That is not human," Zarlos gasped, clutching his chest. "What is that monster?" The 500,000 human ships, which had been moving steadily into the galaxy, suddenly stopped. As one entity, they turned their prows away from the coalition planets and toward this new, terrifying enemy. The voice of the human commander came back over the speakers. It was no longer cold. It was filled with a burning, fierce joy. "You called us ghosts," the voice said. "You called us extinct. But while you were building your councils and your treaties, we were holding the line against the dark. We have run for 300 years. We run no more." The human fleet began to move, accelerating toward the biological horror. The engines flared with a blue light that pushed the fabric of space itself. "Watch closely," the human commander said to the galaxy. "And learn how a war is truly fought." The first volley of human fire launched. It wasn't a laser. It was a solid slug of metal, accelerated to near the speed of light. It slammed into the biological ship, tearing through its flesh and out the other side. Purple blood boiled in the vacuum. The battle had begun. And the galaxy was just a spectator in the stands, realizing too late that the monsters they feared were actually the guardians they needed. The flagship of the human fleet, the Aegis, was a city of steel floating in the dark. Inside, the corridors were narrow and dimly lit. The air smelled of ozone and recycled oxygen, a sharp scent that the crew had lived with for so long they no longer noticed it. Unlike the clean, bright bridges of the coalition ships, the bridge of the Aegis was crowded and loud. Screens covered every wall, flashing with data streams and tactical maps. Crew members ran back and forth, carrying physical tablets and shouting commands. In the center of the chaos stood Leo. Leo was an older man. His hair was gray and cut short, almost to the scalp. His face was lined with deep wrinkles, earned over decades of stress and command. He wore a simple black uniform with no medals, no gold braid, and no shiny decorations. The only thing that marked him as the admiral was the red stripe on his shoulder. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the main view screen. The screen showed the monster they called the Void Entity. It was a writhing mass of purple flesh, larger than anything the Coalition had ever built. It was already firing back, sending bolts of sickly green energy toward the human fleet. "Report," Leo said quietly. His voice was calm, cutting through the noise of the bridge. A young officer named Ben turned from his console. Ben looked tired. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his hands were trembling slightly as he typed. "Shields are holding, Admiral. The Third Fleet is taking heavy damage on the left flank. The enemy is using some kind of acid spray. It's eating through the hull plating." Leo nodded slowly. "Tell the Third Fleet to rotate. Bring in the Seventh. Their armor is thicker." "Yes, sir," Ben said, relaying the order instantly. In the corner of the room, a communication screen lit up. It was a secure channel. Leo walked over to it. The face that appeared was familiar, yet out of place in this war zone. It was Dale. Dale was sitting in the council chamber, which looked soft and comfortable compared to the steel cage of the Aegis. Dale looked pale and shocked. "Leo," Dale said, his voice filled with confusion. "Is that really you? We thought you were all dead." Leo allowed a small, thin smile to touch his lips. "Hello, Dale. It has been a long time." "We are watching the battle," Dale continued, his eyes darting around the screen, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Your ships. They are moving so fast. And that monster, what is it? Why didn't you tell us you were coming back?" "We didn't come back, Dale," Leo said, his voice turning serious. "We never left. We just went somewhere you couldn't see." Dale looked confused. "The history books say you destroyed yourselves." "History is written by the survivors," Leo said. He turned away from the screen for a moment to watch an explosion rock the distant Void Entity. The human ships were swarming the beast, like angry hornets stinging a bear. 300 years ago, our scientists found a tear in space. We saw the void. We saw them coming. We knew that the coalition, the galaxy, was too busy arguing about trade routes to fight a war of extinction. If we stayed, we would have dragged you down with us. Or worse, you would have surrendered to save your own skins, and humanity would have been slaves. So you left Earth behind, Dale asked. "We took everyone," Leo corrected him. "We stripped the cities. We took the resources. We took the genes. What you see in the Sol system now is just a shell. A ghost town. We moved the entire population to the dark zone. It is a place between stars, where the physics are broken and dangerous. We lived there. We fought there. We died there. And now," Leo said, looking back at the screen where the monster was screaming, "they have found us. Or rather, they found this galaxy first. We can't hide anymore. We have to fight here. On the bridge, the klaxons began to wail a different tone. A louder, more urgent sound. "Admiral!" Ben shouted. "The Void entity is charging a main weapon. It is targeting the Vault colony ships on the border. It's going to bypass our fleet and hit the civilians." Leo's face hardened. The Coalition civilians. The same people who had wanted to mine Earth for scrap. The same people who had ignored the warning signs. "We should warn them," Dale's voice came from the screen. "Leo, the Vault have no defense against this. They think this is a simulation or a trick." Leo looked at the image of the Vault ships on his tactical map. They were floating near the edge of the battle, confused and helpless. The Void creature didn't care about politics. It just wanted to consume life. "Open a channel to the Vault commander," Leo ordered. "Channel open, sir," Ben said. Leo didn't use a microphone. He just spoke, his voice amplified by the ship's systems and broadcast to the stunned Vault fleet. "Vault ships. This is Admiral Leo of the Terran Defense Front. You are in the kill zone. Move your ships immediately, or you will be destroyed." A Vault voice answered, full of pride and fear. "We do not take orders from ghosts. This is our sector." Leo sighed. He hated wasting time. "Ben," he said softly. "Prepare the kinetic barrage. Target the Void creature's mouth. It is about to fire. But the Vault ships are in the way." Ben said, his fingers flying across the keys. "If we fire now, the shock wave will cripple them. If we don't fire, the Void will eat them," Leo said. "And then it will be stronger." "Fire." Ben hesitated for a fraction of a second. He was human, and the idea of firing on allies, even ungrateful ones, was hard. But Leo was the Admiral. Ben pressed the button. The Aegis shuddered. Massive rail guns, running the length of the ship's spine, fired. They didn't shoot lasers. They shot slugs of metal the size of houses, moving at 10 times the speed of sound. The slugs slammed into the side of the Void creature just as it opened its mouth to fire on the Vault. The impact was devastating. The creature's head snapped to the side, its mouth forced shut. The energy it had gathered for the weapon imploded inside its throat. The monster shrieked, a sound that vibrated through the hulls of every ship nearby. The shock wave from the impact hit the Vault fleet. It wasn't a direct hit, but it was strong enough to knock their sensors offline and spin them wildly into space. Their shields flickered and died. In the council chamber, the representatives gasped. They watched as the human ships took the brunt of the creature's retaliation. Purple beams sliced through human cruisers, blowing them apart. The humans didn't retreat. They didn't panic. They just moved forward, filling the gaps in the formation. "Did you see that?" Dale whispered to the council. "They saved them." Leo looked back at the screen where Dale was watching. "We didn't save them, Dale," Leo said, his voice cold. "We just didn't want them eating on our lawn. This is our fight. If they get in the way, they will die." The connection to the council was cut. Leo needed to focus. The creature was wounded, but it was angry. It was spawning smaller fighters, little creatures that looked like beetles, swarming out of its flesh. "Admiral, the swarm is heading toward the planet Earth," Ben reported. Leo clenched his jaw. Earth was empty, just rocks and ruins, but it was still home. "They won't touch it," he said. "Launch the drone wing. Tell them to clear the sector." Leo walked to the front of the bridge. He looked at the terrifying face of the enemy. He had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. He had trained in the dark zone. He had watched friends die to learn the weaknesses of these beasts. He thought about the council members, with their soft clothes and their rules. They didn't understand war. They thought negotiation was a tool. They thought peace was the natural state of the universe. Leo knew better. The universe was dark. Life was a flickering candle that could be snuffed out at any moment. The only way to keep the candle burning was to build a wall of iron around it. Hold the line, Leo told his crew. Show them what humanity is made of. The Aegis surged forward, leading the 500,000 ships into the teeth of the nightmare. The galaxy was watching, but Leo didn't care about the audience. He only cared about the kill. The Vault fleet, drifting and damaged, watched in awe. They had mocked the humans. They had called them dead. But now, looking at the wall of black ships charging the monster, the Vault finally understood. The ghosts had returned. And they were angry. The view from the Vault flagship bridge was one of absolute chaos. The giant screens that usually displayed trade routes and star maps were now filled with explosions, debris, and the terrifying sight of the void beast. The Vault captain, a sturdy being named Gore, gripped the railing of his command deck so hard his stone-like knuckles turned white. His ship, the Iron Will, was drifting sideways. The main engines were dead, and the alarms were screaming a high-pitched tone that made his head throb. Report. Gore bellowed at his crew. His voice was usually strong and commanding, but now it sounded shaky. Sensors are blind, Captain, his tactical officer replied, his hands flying over a console that was sparking. The EMP from the human weapon fried our communications. We are deaf and blind out here. Gore looked out the main viewport. He didn't need sensors to see what was happening. It was happening right in front of him. The void creature, that mountain of purple flesh and tentacles, was hurt. Its side was leaking glowing fluids into space where the human slugs had hit it. But it was not dying. It was angry. It was calling for help. Thousands of smaller creatures, looking like flying crabs made of black metal, were swarming out of the beast's wounds. They moved with incredible speed, diving toward the human fleet. Look at them, Gore whispered. The human fleet did not break formation. They did not turn and run. In the Galactic Coalition, ships would turn around to present their strongest shields. They would back away to keep their distance. But the human ships did the opposite. They accelerated. They flew directly into the swarm of crab-like monsters. It was a slaughter, but not the kind the Vault expected. The human ships used weapons the Vault had never seen. They didn't just use energy beams. They used physical bullets the size of cars, railguns that fired projectiles so fast they glowed red-hot from friction. They used missiles that didn't explode on contact but drilled into the enemy armor before detonating. A human destroyer, a small ship compared to the others, flew past the Vault Iron Will. It was close enough that Gore could see the name painted on the hull, the Avenger. The ship was on fire, its hull riddled with holes, but it was still fighting. It spun like a top, its guns blasting away, cutting through a dozen of the crab creatures in seconds. Then, the void beast aimed its main weapon at the damaged human destroyer. A beam of purple energy, thick as a city, shot out. They are going to hit it? A Vault officer shouted. The Avenger tried to dodge, but it was too slow. The beam caught the engine section. The ship didn't just explode, it disintegrated. There was no escape pod, no survivors. It was gone in a blink. Gore felt a wave of sadness wash over him. It was a brave move. A foolish move, but brave. In the coalition, soldiers tried to survive. Humans, it seemed, only cared about the mission. "Captain!" the tactical officer yelled. "The debris from the destroyed ship is heading toward us." Gore looked up. The wreckage of the Avenger was flying through space. A large chunk of the hull, twisted and burning, was on a direct collision course with the helpless vault ship. "Brace for impact!" Gore roared. "Shields to maximum!" The crew scrambled. The shields were weak, barely flickering. The chunk of metal slammed into the vault ship. The bridge shook violently. Consoles exploded, sending shrapnel flying. 2 crew members were thrown from their chairs. When the shaking stopped, the bridge was filled with smoke. The red emergency lights bathed everything in a bloody glow. "Damage report," Gore coughed, wiping dust from his eyes. "Hull breach on deck 4, the officer replied, his voice full of panic. "Shields are gone. Life support failing. And, Captain, look at the debris field." Gore looked at the monitor. The chunk of metal that had hit them was stuck in the side of their ship, but the explosion from the impact had pushed them. It had pushed them away from the path of the void beast. The vault captain stared in disbelief. The human ship had died. But its death had pushed the vault ship out of the line of fire. The humans were not just fighting the monsters. They were protecting the aliens who had come to mock them. "They are insane," Gore muttered. "They are completely insane." On the bridge of the Aegis, the noise was deafening. The ship rocked with every hit, the metal groaning under the stress. Leo stood firm, his feet planted wide apart. He didn't hold onto the railing like the vault captain, he stood like a statue in a storm. "Enemy fleet is grouping near the planet Mars," Ben shouted. "They are trying to get around our left flank." Leo looked at the tactical map. The Void forces were smart. They were trying to get past the human line to attack Earth. It didn't matter that Earth was empty. They wanted to claim the territory. "They won't take a single step," Leo said. "Signal the reserve fleet. The Bulldogs are to deploy." "Bulldogs?" Ben asked, surprised. "Sir, those are old ships. They are basically flying fortresses. They are slow." "They are slow," Leo agreed. "But they have the biggest guns. Tell them to jump right into the middle of the enemy formation." Ben hesitated, looking at the density of enemy ships. "Sir, if they jump there, they will be surrounded instantly." "Yes," Leo said, a cold fire in his eyes. "And they will be very, very angry about it." In the darkness of space, the fabric of reality twisted. 20 massive shapes appeared out of nowhere. They were not sleek. They were bulky, covered in thick armor plates, and bristling with turrets. They were the Bulldogs. They appeared right in the middle of the void swarm. The enemy creatures paused, confused by the sudden arrival. Then, the Bulldogs fired. It was like a thunderstorm that never ended. The Bulldogs didn't aim at specific ships. They just filled the space around them with hot lead and plasma. The explosion was blinding. Thousands of smaller enemy ships were vaporized instantly. The shock wave cleared a hole in the enemy fleet, a perfect circle of empty space in the middle of the battle. On the council screen, watching from Arcturus Prime, the representatives were silent. They had seen wars before. They had seen skirmishes over borders and resources. But they had never seen this. This was not a tactical dance. This was a brawl. Dale watched the screen with tears in his eyes. He saw the way the humans fought. They didn't care about their own lives. They fought with a desperate, terrifying energy. Every time a human ship died, 3 others would swarm the killer and destroy it. They have been fighting for 300 years, Dale whispered to Zarlos, who was standing next to him, looking pale. While we were arguing about mining rights, they were learning how to kill monsters. They are not the primitives we thought they were. Zarlos didn't answer. He couldn't take his eyes off the screen. We were wrong, the Vault ambassador said softly. We were so wrong. We thought they were gone. We thought we were safe. We were just sleeping in a glass house, and the wolves were at the door. Back in the battle, the void beast was screaming. It had lost its minions. Its armor was cracked. The human fleet was closing in, hammering it from all sides. Leo watched the enemy writhe in pain. He knew this tactic. The beast was scared. It was trying to summon a portal to escape. Ben, Leo said. Target the weak spot. Under the jaw. The fleet needs to concentrate all fire on that point. Sending the coordinates now, Ben replied. On the screen, a red crosshair appeared on the throat of the monster. Every human ship that could see it adjusted its aim. For the dead, Leo said quietly. For Earth. The crew shouted back. The guns of the 500,000 ships fired as one. It was a stream of destruction that tore through the darkness. It hit the beast exactly where Leo had predicted. The monster's head snapped back. A blinding light filled the screen. The beast didn't explode slowly. It shattered. Its body broke into a million pieces, turning into dust that drifted away in the solar wind. Silence fell over the comm channels. No one cheered. The humans were too disciplined for that. They just waited for the next order. Leo let out a long breath he felt like he had been holding for 300 years. Status report, he asked. Threat neutralized, Ben said, his voice full of relief. The remaining enemy ships are retreating back to the void. And our losses? Ben looked down at his screen. His voice was sad. Heavy, Admiral. We lost 12,000 ships. 60,000 souls. Leo nodded. It was a high price. But it was a price they were willing to pay. He looked at the image of Earth on the monitor. It was still there. Blue and beautiful. And it was safe. Repair the damage, Leo ordered. And prepare the diplomatic channels. It seems we have some things to discuss with the neighbors. The battle was over. But the war for the galaxy's understanding had just begun. The silence in the United Coalition Council chamber was different this time. It was not the silence of boredom or the silence before a meeting started. It was a heavy, suffocating silence. The ambassadors sat in their seats, staring at the main screen. The battle was over. The debris from the destroyed void creature and the shattered human ships was drifting in the cold vacuum of space. The Vault fleet was barely functional. Their ships were drifting, their lights flickering like dying candles. But the human fleet was still moving. The 50,000 ships that remained moved with precision. They were collecting their dead, towing damaged ships, and securing the perimeter. They did not look like winners celebrating. They looked like workers who had just finished a long, hard shift. Dale stood up slowly. He smoothed his jacket. His hands were steady now. He walked to the center of the room, where the holographic projector was located. He could feel hundreds of eyes watching him. Some were filled with fear, some with gratitude, and some with suspicion. The human representative has the floor, the speaker said. The speaker's voice was usually loud, but now it sounded thin and weak. Dale cleared his throat. He did not look at his notes. He didn't need them. Yesterday, you voted to dismantle Earth, Dale began. You called humanity a memory. You called us a failed experiment. You thought we were gone. He paused, looking around the room. Today, you saw the truth. We did not die. We adapted. We changed. We went into the dark so that we could survive. And today, we came back. We fought a monster that none of your ships could scratch. We saved the Vald fleet. We saved the Sol system. And we saved this council. A murmur went through the room. Zarlos, the Vald ambassador, stood up. He looked tired. His rock-like skin seemed grayer than before. We acknowledge what the humans have done, Zarlos said slowly. The bravery of the human fleet is undeniable. But the situation has changed. The galaxy is afraid. He looked at Dale with a serious expression. You possess 50,000 warships. You have weapons that are superior to ours. You fight without fear of death. The coalition cannot sleep easily knowing such a powerful force exists among us. Zarlos took a deep breath. Therefore, on behalf of the Vald Empire and the Coalition Security Council, I formally request that the human fleet surrenders its command to us. We will integrate your ships into our defense fleet. We will give you rules. We will limit your numbers. It is the only way to ensure peace. We cannot have a rogue wolf pack in the galaxy. The room went quiet. This was the way the galaxy worked. If someone was too strong, they had to be controlled. The other ambassadors nodded. They expected Dale to agree. They expected the humans to be grateful for the offer of membership. Dale looked at Zarlos. He didn't look angry. He looked almost bored. You want us to surrender? Dale asked. It is the logical choice, Zarlos said firmly. We will provide safety. You will provide the ships. It is a fair trade. Suddenly, the holographic screen flickered. The image of the debris field vanished, replaced by the face of a man. It was Leo. He was still on the bridge of the Aegis. The background was the same dark, steel room. But Leo looked different now. He looked tired. There was a cut on his forehead and his uniform was stained with grease, but his eyes were clear. Ambassador Zarlos, Leo said. His voice was deep and calm, coming through the speakers in the chamber. Did you really think we came back to ask for permission? Zarlos blinked, confused. I do not understand. You are victorious, but you are few now. You are only 50,000. We are billions. If you do not join us, you will be alone. Leo laughed softly. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who knew a secret that no one else knew. Zarlos, you think that battle was the war. You think that creature was the only monster hiding in the dark that was just a scout. A single drone sent to test your defenses. The real enemy is coming. An army that makes that creature look like a pet. The ambassadors in the room began to whisper. Fear started to spread again. We have been fighting them for 300 years, Leo continued. We know what is coming. And we know that the coalition cannot stop them. Your treaties, your politics, your rules, they mean nothing to the void. They will eat you alive. Then let us fight together. A Kriller ambassador shouted, standing up. Join us. Combine our fleets. Leo shook his head. No. We will not serve under you. We have seen how you fight. You worry about procedure while the ship sinks. We will not be slowed down by your counsels. Leo leaned closer to the camera, staring into the souls of everyone watching. You offered us surrender, Zarlos. Here is our answer. We do not surrender. And we do not accept your rule. But we are not here to conquer you. He waved his hand, and the screen behind him changed. It showed a tactical map of the galaxy. We are leaving, Leo said. The room gasped. Leaving? Dale asked, surprised. The void is coming for the core worlds, Leo explained. We are going back to the dark zone. We are going to finish our preparations. We are building ships bigger than the Aegis. We are building weapons that can crack planets. We are going to hunt the source of the void. Leo looked directly at Zarlos. We will leave a small fleet behind to guard the wormhole. We will protect the galaxy from the scouts. But we are not joining your government. We are not giving you our ships. You want to survive, then learn from us. Learn from you? Zarlos asked, his voice trembling. Yes, Leo said. Stop fighting over rocks and gas. Stop thinking you are safe. Wake up. Build walls. Build guns. Grow a spine. Because next time, the void might send a fleet that we cannot stop alone. And if you are still arguing about mining rights when they arrive, you will die. The connection started to break up. Static filled the screen. Wait. Dale shouted, stepping forward. Leo, when will we see you again? Leo's voice faded in and out. You will see us when the sky burns. Good luck, Dale. Don't let them make you soft. The screen went black. In the council chamber, the lights came back up to full brightness. But the darkness of the message remained. Zarlos stood there for a long time. He looked at the empty spot where the 50,000 ships were still moving on the tactical map. He had tried to control the wolf, but the wolf had just walked away, leaving the sheep to think about their future. They refused, Zarlos whispered. They refused to surrender. And they refused to rule us. They offered us a chance, Dale said softly. They gave us a warning. The next few weeks were different for the galaxy. The mining expedition to the Sol system was cancelled immediately. No one wanted to touch Earth anymore. It was no longer seen as a graveyard, it was seen as a holy place. A place where the warriors had slept. The coalition began to change. The Vault started to upgrade their ships, copying the human designs as best they could. The Krillers stopped debating and started building defenses. The fear of the void, combined with the awe of humanity, sparked a new era of industry. 1 month later, Dale was packing his office. He had resigned as the ambassador. There was no need for an ambassador to a dead species anymore. Humanity was not dead, but they were not part of the coalition either. They were something else now. They were the guardians of the threshold. Dale picked up a framed photo of his grandfather, an old picture from before the silence. He looked at it and smiled. He felt proud. He walked out of his office and onto the balcony of the station. He looked up at the stars. In the distance, near the edge of the solar system, he could see the faint twinkling of the human engines. They were leaving. They were going back into the dark to fight the monsters so the galaxy could sleep. Dale watched the lights fade until they vanished. They are gone, he said to the empty air. But they will be back. He turned and walked back inside, ready to help a galaxy that was finally waking up. The galaxy thought humanity was gone, and in a way, they were right. The old, weak humanity was gone. In its place was a legend. A story that would be told for 1,000 years. The story of the day the ghosts returned, saved the world, and disappeared into the night.